If you don't like your fantasy team, blow it up and start again. That is what the wildcard is for. Welcome to FPL Mate, my name is Dan and I have got the perfect Game Week 6 wildcard for you. So this team comes in at around 100 million, but if you can't quite afford that, there is a change you can make on the bench to make this team affordable. We'll talk about that when we get to it, but hopefully most of you guys will be able to afford this team, and if you have extra money, you may even be able to make some upgrades as well. So let's go through it, starting off in goal with a super obvious player, and that is Raya. Absolute first choice goalkeeper for a wild card this week at 5.5 million, a cheap way into the Arsenal defense, and a player who is not only keeping a lot of clean sheets but also making saves and getting those bonus points. Raya is in some serious form right now, and with the next two fixtures at home against newly promoted Leicester and Southampton, you definitely imagine there are going to be some more clean sheets in these fixtures. Let's move into defense, and we've got Trent Alexander-Arnold, who finally found his first attacking return of the season in Game Week 5 with some phenomenal creative numbers we've seen so far. 13 key passes he's now up to this season, with an expected assists of 2 so far as well. Remember, he also had that disallowed goal a couple of weeks ago, so he is going to be getting the occasional goal as well. So really nice pick and well worth that 7.1 million price tag that he currently sits at. The next few fixtures are pretty decent as well. Wolves and Crystal Palace, definitely going to be opportunities for yet more clean sheets for Liverpool. They've been one of the top defences of the Premier League so far this season, and obviously so have Arsenal, as we mentioned with Raya. So we're also going to go for Gabriel, who in these favourable fixtures may be able to add some more attacking returns to his game. No surprise to see him scoring against Spurs last week, because obviously Gabriel, the big difference between him and a Saliba is Gabriel always has that goal threat, because from those set pieces that Arsenal work so hard on, Gabriel is always the target man to try and score from those situations, and he does it a few times every season, it seems like now. So we're going to see probably a few more goals from him this season, and he will continue to pick up those FPL points from attacking returns as well as the clean sheets. So both Trent and Gabriel giving you a great opportunity for clean sheets, but also something in attack as well, which is really nice. Our final defender today is actually going to be Levi Colwill, who might be a bit of a surprise for some of you guys, but I wanted to go for a slightly cheaper defender in this position. We've already spent quite a lot of money on Raya, Trent and Gabriel. We need to make sure we are saving some money for attack. So what kind of 4.5 million defenders can you go for? Well, I think the Chelsea defense isn't too bad of a shout. They've actually been keeping some pretty good defensive numbers over the last couple of game weeks, and Colwill seems reasonably nailed on at 4.5 million as well, which is really useful. I'll be looking to play Colwill for the next 2 game weeks at home against Brighton and Nottingham Forest, and after that we have got a really good bench cover and a player who rotates well with Colwill. So we wouldn't be looking to play Colwill every week, but for those weeks that he has the good fixtures, you play Colwill, and in other game weeks we can maybe play someone else. But if you guys have any other suggestions for 4.5 million cheap defenders, please do let me know in the comments section, as I know a few of you might say Konsa after his goal in game week 5, but I'm really looking for those cheap defenders who have good fixtures and are likely to keep clean sheets. Open to suggestions on that one, but I've gone for Colwill in this team because of the rotation that I have selected, which we will speak about when we get to the bench section. Before we go any further, make sure you do drop a like on this video if you are finding it useful. It really helps out the channel so much, and do feel free to subscribe if you want those daily FPL videos in your feeds. Guys, we need to move on to the midfield. So our first midfielder is obviously going to be Saka. He's probably the first midfielder that should be on your team sheet when wildcarding in Game Week 6 because of these 2 great fixtures for Arsenal, Leicester and Southampton, back to back. We are expecting goals from Arsenal in these games, and who is going to be the man to deliver the goals, whether that's through assists from those set pieces or through on-field creativity or scoring himself, cutting in from that right-hand side? Well, it's probably going to be Saka, to be fair, who is doing really well so far this season with a goal and 4 assists already. Decent attacking numbers as well. 11 shots, 10 in the box prior to the Man City game in Game Week 5, because obviously I'm recording this on Saturday night, and yeah, maybe he even adds some more to his goal and assist tally against Man City, but I guess you guys from the future will know more about that than I will. But I do really like this pick. I think if you're going for an Arsenal attacker, he has to be the guy to go for. You could maybe go for Havertz as well, but I'm worried that Havertz may play deeper in the midfield positions whilst Ødegaard is out, and Ødegaard could be out for some weeks. That at least gives Saka all of the set-piece responsibilities, which is, I guess, pretty useful, isn't it? Our next midfielder is going to be Luis Diaz. And I know it seems really obvious given the form that he's in, but I think there is a degree of risk here because we have seen that Gakpo is also more than capable of playing in that left wing position. Chiesa is another potential threat in the left, on the left-hand side of that Liverpool attack as well. So you do wonder if Luis Diaz will ever get rotated. But in the short term, what we have to say is that he is in the form of his career, and he's playing with such confidence at the moment that you never know how many goals he can score in a game. He scored 2 goals, obviously, against Bournemouth, but in that game, it honestly could have been more. He is doing so well, and his numbers is backing that up as well. Already this season, he's taken 11 shots in the box, 7 of which were big chances to score as well, with 2.71 expected goals throughout the season so far. He's also creative, 8 key passes with 2 big chances created as well. These are some really elite numbers, and I think it may be worth going for the short-term risk on him, even though, if we're totally honest, he may need a transfer out in the future. But I've got my eye on someone like Bowen, who could maybe come in after a couple of weeks if Luis Diaz minutes do start to get a little bit dicey. But for now, the information we know, Luis Diaz is doing fantastic. And if you're on a wild card, you want to get an additional Liverpool player in your team, he's a pretty good guy to go for, right? Our next pick is going to be Mbeumo, another penalty taker to add to Saka. So we've got 2 penalty takers in this team now. And Mbeumo, another player who's been doing really well so far this season. Now, his numbers aren't as good as a Luis Diaz, for example, but he's still generated 1.53 XG so far this season with 8 shots in the box and 4 big chances. A decent amount of creativity from him, however. 10 key passes and 4 big chances created means that he really should have had an assist by now. It hasn't happened, but hey, you never know what's going to happen next in the future. The fixtures look pretty good. We just saw West Ham get destroyed by Chelsea, and West Ham actually putting up some of the weakest defensive numbers in the league at the moment. So you do think this is a good opportunity at home for Brentford. Wolves are the next fixture, again at home after that, followed by Manchester United and Ipswich. The good fixtures just keep coming for Brentford, which means Mbeumo, a nailed-on 90-minute guy, going to play every game, no worry about rotation, and good fixtures for a extended period of time. He's a really nice player to just add to your team and just sit back and let him do his thing and concentrate with your transfers on other areas of the pitch. Now, someone who is maybe not as historically reliable as Mbeumo is Semenyo, but he's having a really good season, still leading the charts for shots. No player in the Premier League has taken more shots than Semenyo at time of recording. He's taken 24, 14 of which in the box, and he's already scored 2 goals as well. A little bit of creativity from him as well, not as much as some of the other guys we've spoken about today, but still looking pretty good. But what you're getting from him is a shots monster who costs just 5.6 million, and more importantly, plays Southampton at home next, which is just the best fixture you can have as a player right now. Southampton looking pretty poor in the Premier League so far, and you do want to take these opportunities. And if Semenyo is taking another, 6 shots per game on average, and he does that against Southampton, you know, there's going to be goals in this game for sure, and Semenyo is most likely the player from Bournemouth, a decent Bournemouth team who were better than the scoreline suggested against Liverpool. Remember, Semenyo did have a goal disallowed in that game, but yeah, these next couple of fixtures, really, really nice for Semenyo. You might want to rotate him a little bit in the later fixtures, but again, in the short term, it is looking really good. He's very cheap. You can bench him when you need to, and you can play him when you need to as well. Up front, Erling Haaland. No doubt about that. And given that Newcastle are looking so poor at the moment, I fancy him in this game as well. There's good fixtures coming up after that for Haaland as well. Fulham, Wolves, Southampton at home, the dream fixture, and a triple captain opportunity for those of you who haven't played that particular chip yet. Just be aware of that one, guys. But yeah, we know how good Haaland is. 4.83 XG so far this season, 9 goals scored in 4 games. It is absolutely crazy. Who's to say he won't add more goals to his tally against Arsenal as well today as you watch this video? But we'll move on to our next forward, and this is going to be Solanke, another slightly interesting one. We're not just going to go super template, super obvious with all of these picks. I want to share with you some players who have gone under the radar a little bit. Solanke obviously scored his first goal of the season for Spurs in game week 5, but his data's really good, really good. So he's actually getting a lot of opportunities in dangerous areas we've seen so far. In just 3 games, he's already had 5 big chances and 2.14 XG, also 0.25 XA. So this is really good. This is actually very, very nice. And this really just goes off the back of what we know about Ange Postecoglou. His strikers benefit. We look back to last season when Richarlison was playing as the central striker, when Son was playing as the central striker, they just score goals. And Solanke is the latest player to have this opportunity for Spurs. Earlier on in the season, before the injury, everyone was hyping up Solanke. We all knew that he was going to be a great FPL pick. And I think that injury has kind of made us forget about him and what he can offer a little bit. Obviously fantastic for Bournemouth last season as well, but this team is set up to create chances for him, and chances will come in any fixture. Man United, Brighton, West Ham, Crystal Palace, it's a fairly decent run of fixtures, and I think he is well worth going for. And our final forward is actually going to be Chris Wood. So he's a little bit cheaper, 6.1 million. Fulham is the next fixture. The rest of the fixtures, I think, again, pretty strong for him. Pretty good opportunities here. But he's been a player who has he's scored 2 goals already this season. Might even score another against Brighton. Again, you guys from the future will know more about that than I do. But 10 shots, 5 big chances. Very nice indeed. 1.63 XG. Just a very reliable guy who is always very clinical, and when he gets the opportunity to score, more often than not, he will finish off those chances. Potential penalty taker as well. We don't know that for sure, but it is something to consider as well. Let's move on to the bench. We've just gone for a 4 million goalkeeper in Slicker. You could go for Valdemarsson if you wanted to, but I didn't want to go for a triple Brentford in this team, just in case there's any other Brentford opportunities that emerge, like Rico Lewis, for example. But Slicker is going to be our 4 million goalkeeper, as I don't really see us tripling up on Ipswich anytime soon. Anyway, Rodgers is also on the bench. He is coming off the back of 2 assists in game week 5, which is finally getting some returns from him. You could even play him in game week 6 if you wanted to, but for this team, he is going to be on the bench. I think the other players just have a slightly better opportunity to score points. We've spoken a lot about Rodgers already though, so let's move on to these final 2 players on the bench, who I think are a little more interesting actually. So Alex Moreno has been signed by Nottingham Forest, and I think he is possibly, in a way, maybe more nailed at left back than Aina is at right back, because maybe Nico Williams is competing with Aina at right back, whereas Toffolo not as convinced at the left back position. That's the other guy at Nottingham Forest at left back, right, who is kind of on the bench often. I don't know. Anyway, Alex Moreno, obviously a very decent player, a degree of creativity, but Nottingham Forest are one of the strongest defences so far this season, and that was kind of proven against Liverpool, in game week 4, where Forest gave Liverpool some real difficulties. They're still sitting at the 3rd best defensive numbers in the Premier League so far this season, which is very, very nice indeed. And I think that could continue in some of these fixtures that look pretty good. But what I would be looking to do is I would be looking to play Colwill probably for game week 6 and 7. And then we get to game week 8 and 9. That's when Alex Moreno can come into your team and play a few game weeks after that. So like I said, these players look quite nice for rotation. And having Colwill and Moreno, you're always going to get a nice favourable matchup for your defender, which is pretty useful. Also, Moreno, just 4.4 million. So really, really nice cheap price tag for him. You don't need to break the bank to get into the 3rd best defence in the Premier League. And finally, Sepp van den Berg, in my opinion, the best 4 million defender. He looks like he is going to be a regular starter now for Brentford. You could also go for Mosquera here. And by the way, speaking of Mosquera, if you can't quite afford this team, downgrading Alex Moreno to Mosquera is probably the way to resolve that and free up 0.4 million. But Van den Berg is my preferred choice here. And I think Brentford are a better defence than some of the newly promoted United teams and a better defense than Wolves as well. So therefore, I would be looking to go for him with the good fixtures coming up for Brentford as well. And he's definitely a player that you can potentially play. If you wanted to play him, that is absolutely fine. That is absolutely no problem whatsoever. So that is my team of 15 players. We're going to throw the captain's armband on Erling Haaland, and we're going to put the vice captain on Saka. But I really like this team. I think it's genuinely really well balanced. We've got the triple Arsenal. We've got 2 Liverpool players. We've got a Man City player in there as well, and something from Chelsea and Spurs. So I feel like we've hit most of the big teams. In fact, of the big 6 teams, it's only Manchester United who we don't have any players from. So we've managed to get a team full of, big players from big teams, which is very, very good that we've been able to do that. My one reservation is that maybe we could add more Man City. And when I was playing around with building this team, going for a Foden or going for a Gvardiol, I think is definitely still a really, really good option for you. So maybe you can try and include these players, particularly if you upgraded Diaz to a Foden and maybe downgrade Solanke to maybe a João Pedro, for example. That would probably be absolutely fine to do that as well if you wanted to go a slightly different route. But I think Luis Diaz is probably the talk of the town at the moment, and Foden not really had too many minutes yet, so it's difficult to recommend him on a wild card at this moment. But I'd definitely be tempted by it. But let me know what you think about this team, guys. Is it looking as good to you as it looks to me? I think it looks super strong. It's got a strong base as well as a little bit of spice in there, and I think it creates a really nice balance for your team. If there's any other players you think should be included in this team though, do let me know. And by the way, guys, this team is also 97% rated on the Fantasy Football Hub's My Team tool, which kind of gives a good balance, a second opinion on a team using the data to try and, I guess, kind of figure out how good a team is. And 97% is a really good score. If you are building a wildcard right now, I definitely recommend using this tool. I've left a link in the description for you guys to check out the rating for your wildcard team. And if it's looking like 95% plus, it's probably good to go. So go check that out, guys. Link in the description. And you can also still get 50% off your Fantasy Football Hub subscription, and you will get your money back if you don't win your mini league as well. That's how confident they are that their tools will help you win at FPL. They really are. I use this stuff all the time to build my teams, to have a look at the data and look at many of their articles, price predictions, all of that good stuff. So yeah, do go check it out if you haven't done already. But once again, let me know what you think about this team, and do you think this one will cook, or is there any other changes you'd make? Is there any other players you like the look of that you would like to fit into a wildcard team for Game Week 6? But thank you so much for watching. Drop a like if you haven't done already. Do subscribe if you're new around here, and I will see you later for a stream and through the week for some more videos. See you later, mates. Bye-bye.